Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the July 13th Early Learning Board meeting. We'll begin the meeting as we always do, hearing our mission, and Rochelle Mahoy has agreed to read today's mission. Rochelle?
Good afternoon, everyone. Our Early Learning Board mission is to support children's academic and lifelong well-being by directing and supporting the EOEL for an effective, coordinated, high-quality early learning system from prenatal to kindergarten entry.
Thank you, Rochelle. And as always, a reminder to keep this in mind as we go about our business for the day. Let me first of all take attendance. We'll ensure we have a quorum. Justina?
Here.
Erin is absent. Iolani? I believe she's going to be late. Megan?
Here.
Ben?
Here.
May is absent. Bob Peters here. Napua?
Ew.
Mari?
Here.
Carrie is also absent. Melody?
Aloha.
Thank you. Dana is absent. Rochelle?
Here.
Steve Schatz? Steve? Kim, I noticed you are here. Are you taking Steve's place today?
Good afternoon, Bob. I think he was attending today, but I don't see him right now.
Okay, he was intending to come, I believe, so
Yes, that's correct.
we can watch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Shim?
Here.
Okay. We have 7 voting members, so we do have a quorum, and we can proceed with the agenda as it's been distributed. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. The first is the special meeting that was held on May 25th, 2023. The chair will entertain a motion to approve those minutes as distributed.
This is Ben. I'll motion.
Thank you, Ben. Is there a second?
Second, Bob. This is Melody.
Thanks, Melody. We have, the motion has been moved and seconded to approve the May 25th special meeting minutes. Please take a minute to refresh your memory. And if there is any discussion, we'll be happy to hear it. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will vote to approve the minutes as presented. Justina?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Iolani? Not here yet. Megan?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
I vote aye. Napua?
Aye.
Mari?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
The minutes have been approved as distributed. The second set of minutes we have are those for the June meeting. That was June 8th, 2023. The chair notes one change in the attendance. The attendance lists Erin Henderson as having been at that meeting, and according to my list of attendance that we took, Erin was absent at that meeting. So we need to take her out of the attendance category, please. That's one change. Is there any other, let's get a motion to approve first of all.
I'll motion to approve the minutes with the change you noted, Bob.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Oh, thank God.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the June minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move forward to vote on approval of the minutes with the one change recommended of moving Aaron Henderson from the attendees to the absent list. Justina,
I want to abstain, but Bob, just because I was absent and I know I can vote to approve, am I gonna do we have enough of a quorum if I abstain? Can you still get approval?
and I'm sorry, say that again.
If I abstain from approving the minutes, can you still get approval based on quorum we have?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, then I'll abstain.
Okay, Ialoni, Megan,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
I vote aye, Napua,
Aye.
Murray,
Aye.
Melody.
Aye.
The minutes have been approved as distributed with the one change in the attendees. Thank you all. The next item on the agenda is an opportunity for public comment, with a reminder that there's a 2-minute time limit for comments, and all comments have to be related to items listed on the agenda. Are there any public comments? Hearing none, we will move to item 4, which is the Executive Office on Early Learning updates and report. And I'll turn it over to Yuko and her staff. Yuko?
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm going to take this, go ahead.
For the updates from our office for the month of July. The first thing I wanted to highlight are our legislative updates. So Governor enacted HB 300 budget bill Friday, June 30th. EOEL's budget requests remain intact, and the funding to expand EOEL public pre-K programs and appropriate funds for the early childhood educator stipend program was included. The governor also enacted the following on July 3rd. SB 239, the accreditation bill, HB 960 relating to school facilities authority, and HB 961, which expands EOEL public pre-K and preschool open doors to 3-year-olds. On July 6th at 9 a.m., we held a press release at the University of Hawaii Children's Center, and Lieutenant Governor, legislators, and of course Samuel and Mary Castle Foundation, Chair Peters, and our students and our university partners were all present to highlight the joint effort to implement this program and to celebrate the appropriation of the general funds and to encourage people to apply. And so here are some pictures from that celebration. And so it was a really nice day to highlight the work of early childhood educators and to let people know that there are funds that are available. So the deadline, so we currently, the picture on the top right side are students that are currently taking advantage of the stipend program. And the reason why they were able to take advantage of it is because of the initial funding from the Samuel and Mary Castle Foundation. And so they were able to speak about this and share the impact that it has had on them, and also, to highlight the work of the field. And so we're grateful that they were there with us. So again, there's opportunity for people to apply for fall 2023, but just know that the fall 2023 application deadline is July 15, which is Saturday. So please send this out to folks so that they know that they can apply for this opportunity. The link is right here at the bottom, and also you can scan the QR code. So some system updates. And so Alohi, would you like to do this portion and then the next couple of slides, please?
Yes, can do. Aloha, everyone. So just sorry for the duplication because I will be giving an update later on about regarding our state plan dashboard. So right here, I just indicated what we're doing currently with our dashboard. We're in the progress of making revisions after meeting with the SI subcommittee, and we're also been meeting with public partners that provide the data for our dashboard just to really vet the data and to ensure that there's context around the data. So later on in the agenda, me and Jeff will be able to set some context and share a little bit more about what's been going on with the early childhood state plan dashboard. Thank you. And then for PDGB5, there are some things that we were able to update and complete within the month. So we're still finalizing a contract with our vendor for the comprehensive needs assessment. Regarding our activity 2, which is renewing our state plan, this is really an activity that will be taking place in year 2. So right now we're more monitoring progress of the state plan and SIPs and just planning for how we can renew our state plan and ensuring that all stakeholders are a part of it. For activity 3, which is our parent and family engagement, we've drafted a RFQ, which is a request for quotes for a website design to really to get out information regarding PDGB5. We also have some other activities of more family engagement type activities, but we were able to do a website for PDGB5 and communication of that. So be on the lookout. And then we're also finalizing a service agreement with our parent leadership training. And that will be with HCAM. For activity 4, which is really focused on quality workforce development, a sub-award has been executed between the College of Education at UH Manoa and Hawaii EP20 for a few things. So that one is to increase the pathways for bachelor degrees in education, for early childhood education degrees, and then also regarding workforce development strategies. So we're just starting this work, and we've just been able to execute the contract so that College of Ed can begin doing that work. And then P20 is also been working towards a workforce identity match study, and an RFA was posted in June and will be closing in July for that particular activity. For our activity 5, which is focused on quality improvement, along with that sub-award between College of Ed and Hawaii EP20, the College of Ed will be working on developing a CQITA system. And this is really the first steps is starting with developing foundational documents for the system. So just want to be clear that it's not necessarily creating a full system at this point, but more of the preliminary, there's a lot of preliminary steps that need to happen before a real development can happen. So we're doing some of those pre-steps within this activity at this point. For activity 6, which is around enhancing quality and expanding access, we were able to execute a contract for developmental screening for the public pre-K children. And I think there's another slide, Yuko. We also have a bonus activity, which is a stipend program, but we don't have any progress on that as of this month. And then a few other things that come along with our grant is a evaluation plan and technical assistance. So we're able to get a budget from our external evaluator at this point to execute a contract. And then technical assistance, we finalize the plan with the National PDG TA Center. So if you have any questions regarding any of these activities, please reach out to one of us at EOEL between me and Yuko, or even someone at Hawaii P20, as we're co-leads on the preschool development grant.
Perfect, thank you, Lohi.
Thank you.
I wanted to also give some team updates on EOEL. So Ku'ulei Kalupio Kalani is currently the lead for EOEL Public Pre-K after Colleen's retirement. And we were able to transition Lane Tsujiyama into EOEL as an institutional analyst. We have created position descriptions or updated position descriptions and submitted requests to fill for educational specialist, office assistant, and program specialist for our office. And these are 4 of the 5 were newly awarded positions to our office after this last legislative session. And 1 is the update to Colleen's position. I'm working to secure a date with the Head Start Association to take a look at the Head Start State Collaboration Director position description before we post it. I've been trying to get feedback from the Region 9 folks and our Head Start State Association. I think it's just a practice that I like to do when somebody vacates a position, to take a look at it to make sure it meets the current needs that are happening actually right now. So I'm looking forward to that collaboration. I'm scheduling currently the positions for the business manager, communication specialist, and the workforce specialist. I had lists for these positions, but it was on hold because I didn't know what was going to happen potentially with the vacancy trade-off, but they were all secured. So that's where we're at right now. And then working with our EOEL public pre-K side, because we also gained 10 new state early learning state office teacher positions. I wanted to introduce somebody new to our team. Oh, here, I think I can see you. I'll just talk about you first and then say hi. So we have a new member onto our team, and this is Mikako Deguchi. And I wanted to kind of share a little bit about her. So Mikako comes to us with a wealth of different types of knowledge and experiences that I think will greatly benefit our team. So she's actually has a doctorate in dental surgery, so she's a dentist, and she has a master in business administration and a baccalaureate certificate in secondary education. So pretty diverse experiences. She's been a dentist in Nagoya. She's published in journals. She's been a freelance writer and translator, teacher, business owner. She worked at UH, Public Health and Native Hawaiian Health, the Judiciary, and also Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. And so we're really excited to have her to our team. And I just wanted to give her an opportunity to say hello to everybody.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. My name is Mikako Deguchi, and I'm the new institutional analyst. It's a great honor to be working with a great group of people at EOEL and with you. I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikako. Thank you. So some highlights from the early learning side. So in Chris's transition, I'm now stepping into the role to be on the Head Start State Collaboration side. And so, of course, working with all of our Head Start folks. And on the bottom left, you can see again, that's the same thing I just spoke about, like reviewing the position description with the Head Start Association. And then on the right side, I was actually just recently able to join in because Head Start is actually, the Head Start Association is actually going through a strategic planning opportunity right now. So I was able to jump in on their second meeting. And then you can see they're going to have some additional meetings as they look to chart their direction over the next 3 years. Another thing for those who are in person, okay, I wanted to make sure I gave one to everybody, but you can see right here that Chris was able to finalize the 2023 Head Start Early Head Start fact sheet. So for those who are here in person, I did hand out a hard copy. For the rest of you, it's going to be available on our website, but if you want me to send it to you directly, I can send it to you directly. And we also do have shiny, oh, it's not going to show up with the background, but we do have some copies for you if you'd like one, and I can mail it to you. On our EOL public pre-kindergarten side, right now, they're right in the middle of working with the University of Hawaii over the Summer Institute. And the focus again is leaving place, story, and documentation in the early years. And so that's actually happening right now. We did show the Early Institute flyer previously. And then I also wanted to give an update on the application and enrollment process. So total number of students that were enrolled across the state as of Q4 this past school year was 463, and it was up from 344 the prior year. So we know that families are returning to in-person learning after the brief hold off during the COVID years. And so that's very exciting. As of today, we have processed 583 pre-K applications, and last year at this point in time, it was 444. So we know that there are a lot more applications that are coming in, and also there are still a lot more that are still being processed right now. And there's a high volume of applications that are happening right now, which is so we appreciate your patience. And again, I wanted to just highlight that applications are accepted throughout the whole school year. One of the things I wanted to highlight that this recently came to our attention, and we had a lot of people on our team on this call this morning, but there is the Child Care Development Fund is looking at a proposed rule change. And so the link to this specific page is at the top, and it's a Rebrandly site, and it just says CCDF rule change 2023. That's what I named it. But I'll read the summary just in case it's too small and you can't see it. It says, the Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families proposes to amend the Child Care and Development Fund regulations. This notice of proposed rulemaking proposes changes to lower families' childcare costs, which can be a significant financial strain for families and de-incentivize work, training, and education. It proposes changes to improve childcare provider payment rates and practices to increase parent choice for childcare arrangements and help stabilize operations for participating providers. It also proposes ways for CCDF lead agencies to streamline eligibility and enrollment processes so families can receive childcare assistance faster. And so program bureaucracy is less likely to disrupt parent employment, training, and education and impede access to childcare. The NPRM also includes technical and other changes to improve clarity and program implementation. And what's important about this opportunity right now is that they are accepting feedback and comments through August 28th. And so again, in order for the comments to be considered, it has to be received before August 28th. And you can submit comments, and here's the docket and the RIN number, and there's information on the portal. So you can go back and see this, but recordings are actually, the recordings from today are captured, and then tomorrow they're going to hold recordings for tribal affiliations. And so people from our team are also going to sit on tomorrow. What I'm curious about is what is the difference, and could there be also implications for Hawaii or parts of Hawaii? I'm not sure. So we're going to sit on that and learn more about it. So if anybody has any questions, we did have members of our team who sat in on the session this morning. Again, it's recorded for everybody, but if you are inclined, I would suggest that you take a look at the proposed rule change and offer some comments before August 28th. And that is the end of our session. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, questions for Yuko or comments? Yuko, was the general takeaway from this morning one of support for the rule change from your group? Or have you had a chance to even talk about it?
So we didn't necessarily talk about it, but the folks who participated took different kinds of notes. So the notes have been going around. I think we saw notes from 3 different individuals who were on it this morning. And it sounds like it's promising. And it could open up opportunities in ways that we see some portions of it seem to be like, as it seems like locked up right now. So it looks like it could be a good idea. I have not studied everything yet.
Yeah, I just wondered if there were some initial impressions, because the one little bit of association I've had with it that seems particularly appealing is the cap on the income of 7%.
Yes, yes.
As part of it, that's something that I would think we would want to support if there were ways that we could do that.
Absolutely. And when you look at the national recommendation of affordability for families, it's 7% and below.
Any other comments or questions for Yuko or staff?
I had a question. This is
Yes.
Justina. I wondered if you could share with us a little bit from Alohi. You mentioned in PDG B5 that you guys were able to work on a developmental screener for public pre-K. Can you say a little bit about what already is happening for public pre-K right now, and then what will be the developmental screener that you're working with or contracting for?
So I can talk a little bit about what's actually happening right now for public pre-K, and then Alohi can talk a little bit more about the other portion of it. So right now, when we look at health and wellness and developmental screenings for public side, basically what's used is health. And so, you know, and all public school children actually have to do that. But in terms of having any additional hearing, vision, dental types of screenings, it's as available or as made known to the school by outside community folks, or as the opportunity happens to present itself. But it does not mean that it is system-wide. And then Alohi, did you want to speak about the second part?
Sorry, can I get clarification on what the second part is? Sorry, I heard your question, Justina, but just want to make
Oh,
sure.
to share, because you had mentioned the milestones you were hitting in PDG B5, and I think it was line item 5. It was around developmental screener for public pre-K, and you mentioned the milestone of I think I recall it being contracted or something to do developmental screener for next year.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure who the vendor is at this point, but we're looking to do the ages and stages questionnaire with the pre-K children. Our target for the first year is 1,000 children, and so just looking at some notes. And we're also looking at socio-emotional. So like Yuko said, we're looking at developmental screening in terms of vision, hearing, and the ages and stages, and then socio-emotional screening.
This is Mari. I also had a question about the same portion. For the screening, I think doing the screening is one thing, but working on the result is the second, right? So, you know, if you pass, it's okay. But if it becomes a refer, we don't call it fail. So, you know, if it becomes a refer, what are you going to do from there? I mean, I would think that that's going to go back to the primary care physician. And then the social emotional, is that the part of the ASQ one? ASQ has ASQ SE. So I'm not sure if that's the one that you're going to implement.
Yes, thanks for the clarification, Mari. It will be the ASQ SE. Sorry, was someone gonna speak?
No, sorry, Alohi, I was just saying that you were muted at that time.
Oh, okay. As far as the referral process, I think that's something we would have to double check with our vendor. It probably most likely will be to either, I'm thinking ESI, and then if not, the pediatrician to some degree.
Yeah, because ESI, is that the EIS?
Yeah, EIS, yes.
Yeah, so that's less than 3, right? That's 0 to 3. So 3-year-old preschooler is not going to go back to the early intervention program. So it's going to be if they refer and if the doctors or the other people have enough concerns, like a preschool teachers, then I think it's going to go to the DOE and then they have to do the evaluation for the special education program. But somebody has to follow if it's not passed.
Yes, so thank you for that, because that is one of the biggest pieces that we've heard is that sometimes is the translation of the information after the screening to what happens next, right? Because it belongs to the family, and then what happens next, and who is permitted to have that information and what actually happens next. So you're correct in that, and that I think that that's a part that we're going to try to pay close attention to, so that we make the links from the data that's collected to the next step if there needs to be something.
Yeah, because the pediatrician actually doing the developmental screening at 3. Well, we do the 3-year-old well child check. It doesn't happen at 3, but before they turn 4, everybody's going to go there. And then they do also the MChat. If they didn't do it, especially at the 24 months. So MChat is the autism specific screening tool. And then if they become refer, somebody has to make a decision, right? They have to share that information with the family, and then somebody has to make a decision. So if it's clearly delayed, family can actually request the evaluation to the special ed. If they are clearly passed, that's fine. But there's a gray zone in between. And then that's the place that somebody has to make a decision. Okay, are we going to follow up? So who is going to follow up? How to retrieve that information on your side, so you have a seamless, all the information. Okay, you had the pass and then refer, and then what did you do with the refer population? Because I'm one of the trainers for the ASQ3 in the community, and then I always tell them, if you're not going to follow up, don't do it, because it's not going to help. So, that is the important part I want you to think. Doing is one thing. You can just give it to the parents, because this is kind of like a questionnaire. But, somebody has to. And then also the target population for the 3-year-old school is maybe, you're going to aim at the more higher risk people. So that means there is a possibility that they may need somebody who can actually help finishing the task, because it probably about have like 30 questions. It's kind of wordy. So the reading is one of the things that can be in the way. Or some parents may be a second language, English may be second language. So I think that's another thing to include in your plans.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Yuka or Scott? No, it doesn't appear that there are any more. Thank you. We want to welcome Mikako, and also are happy to see that Lane is moving out of the ELB but into the ELEL side, and will continue to be a part of the work moving forward. We'll move next to the subcommittee reports. We have 2 reports to present today. One is the Governance Standing Subcommittee to address the transition preparation, and then I'll turn it over to Matt for that portion of the meeting.
Thanks, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone. In our July meeting, our June meeting that we had for the subcommittee, we continued our talks about how and what information we're going to be asking the subcommittees to put together. Yuko, thank you very much. We have access to the Google Docs for ELB, and I'm going to go into the subcommittees and create a couple subfolders for some of the items that we're going to need. I'll be sending that out later. But one of the things that we practiced We're going to ask the subcommittees to provide the subcommittee strengths, challenges, and goals. And so we did that exercise ourselves as the governance subcommittee. I'll share those in a moment, just so you have an idea. Other questions that we'll be asking revolve around how members of the subcommittee are selected, what your current projects or open items are, who your community resources are, any key policy statements or studies from local or national organizations, key people and organizations that you work with, and then again, files that will have folks drop into the Google Drive. So for subcommittee strengths, challenges, and goals, we looked at the governance subcommittee and asked ourselves this question and decided that our strengths, collaborative, professional, friendly, strong governance experience. The ELB chair is a member. Majority are ex officio, impartial, public agency knowledge experience. Some of our challenges is the majority of folks on the subcommittee are ex officio. Another challenge is we are self-selected, so that sometimes limits pool of expertise, and we lack staff support to track policies or create a policy manual. And then our goals, these are based on the charter for the ELB. The governance subcommittee provides management of board vacancies and the nomination process. We do the annual executive director evaluation process. We track policies enacted by the board, and then define, prioritize, communicate, and evaluate policies and processes for the ELB. And that's to accomplish the larger goals of building the early learning system with ELEL. So that's the type of basic information we're going to be asking for the other subcommittees. And I apologize, I did not have that ready to go for Bob to send out. I will have that ready and send that out before the August meeting. And I will have the Google Drive folders done. So if people want to start dropping documents in there, they'll be able to do that. Then the next thing Bob will be talking about later on in another update is the board transition status. So that's my update. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you very much. Back to you, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And the process is going to be, you will create the survey and questions, and I will send it out to the committee
Correct.
conveners, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. The other subcommittee update we have for this meeting is the Strategic Implementation Subcommittee. I'll turn it over to Ben.
Thanks, Bob. So our subcommittee met last time was like early June, but wanted to give Alohi and Jeff an opportunity to kind of just let the board know where we're at right now. And we still got a little bit more work, but wanted to turn it over to Alohi and Jeff to kind of just give a update.
Yes, thanks, Ben. Thanks, Bob. Just want to make sure that Jeff is able to get on. I think he wanted to share his screen. So just want to make sure you can do that before I start talking.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone for the second chance to speak on the dashboard. I think me and Jeff are going to set some context just like what has happened up till now. I'll review again what we're doing currently, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff to talk a little bit more about our goals and intentions and expectations around the dashboard, some next steps, and who we can reach out to if you have any questions or concerns. We really just want to use this time to not necessarily go over the dashboard in its entirety because it's still being in the works, like I said earlier. However, we just want to just share a little bit about what we have been doing and where we're at. So thank you again for this time. So it's just to set some context, what Jeff is sharing is just little snapshots of our dashboard. Back in 2020, the board recommended two things around state plan monitoring. And so the first objective was how do we do an annual reporting on achievements and lessons learned. And one recommendation was to develop a web-based dashboard around data. At that time, we were looking at a broad audience. Maybe there's lots of leadership within the early learning system, policymakers and funders that we might want to share this with. And we want to ensure that there's content that describe the goals, our strategies, our priorities for collective action within each of the 5 building blocks. We also wanted to ensure that there's charts and graphs and visuals that shared about the indicators of success, which we refer to as vital signs and key milestones within the 5 building blocks. The other objective was to discuss to use the dashboard and even some of the information that I might be able to provide along the way to discuss anticipated challenges and emerging opportunities, and to reset goals along the way as our strategic plans are kind of living. And so the recommendation was, in addition to our dashboard, we would present a summary of progress along with the dashboard. So that was back in 2020, and we've been developing our dashboard over the few years, and we've met with the SI subcommittee. We were able to preview the first iteration of the data dashboard. And there was at that time a few recommendations made last March. And so they came back to the board and approved a few motions. One was to not necessarily go live just yet with our web-based dashboard, but the SI subcommittee would need to preview the dashboard before and approve the dashboard before going live. And then also we wanted to ensure that there was some process to help us at EOEL determine the framework around the dashboard. This is really how can the dashboard, thinking about a framework that is most effective for the early learning board, and really focusing also on our audience of not just a broad audience as much as this may be public eventually, but to focus on how can this really be effective for early learning board members voting and non-voting. So what we're doing now, like I shared, the SI subcommittee did do a deep review of the dashboard at each of the state plan blocks and looked at all the vital signs and the data that we have available now. And they were able to help determine a structure and framework that was most effective for the board. We're also currently, after gathering that feedback from the SI subcommittee, one of them was to also, let's see how we can meet with our public agencies that provide the data and ensure that we vet the data with them so that they're comfortable with what is going out, and then also to better provide context around the information and data that might be, that is available. And so me and Jeff have been meeting furiously with tons of folks from home visiting services, like with Jeremy, to our friends at Department of Human Services, and even looking forward to meetings with Child Protective Services and other folks like that to better understand the vital signs that are going along with our early childhood state plan dashboard. So we've collected lots of feedback so far, and we're incorporating all those recommendations to create a revised dashboard to eventually present and get approved by the SI subcommittee and to eventually preview with the full board. So I'll turn it over to Jeff so he can give some context around goals, intentions, and expectations of what we're really developing.
Thanks, Lohi. I may be repeating a little bit here, but so the dashboard is meant to report on progress for the state plan. The state plan, as you'll remember, is divided into 5 building blocks. There's a building block around health, safety, and well-being, one around family engagement and support, early learning, workforce, system coordination. And so the dashboard has 5 pages that correspond. So in the image here, you'll see a representation of 5 pages. This is just a little screen grab from the top of the page. And when you scroll down each page, then you'll find the data and a little description that goes along with it. So the indicators that we're looking at here, this is quantitative data, numerical data that we selected as indicators back in 2018 when we were developing the state plan. And as a reminder, the criteria that the small group of folks who chose these indicators were given included that these are supposed to be annual indicators of progress. And so we had to find indicators that are updated at least once a year. They were supposed to show trends and inform program and policy changes. They should align with what the departments at that time were already working on. They should be limited in number. That is, we're not choosing 500 indicators. We were going to choose, and we were instructed to choose, about 3 indicators per building block. So think about child and family health, safety, and well-being. And we had to come up with 3 indicators that we felt sort of captured, this really broad area. So I want to highlight that because I think that sort of comes up again and again. It's difficult to choose the correct 3 indicators. And in addition, we had to choose indicators that were publicly available. Once again, we were doing this in 2018. So based on those, we selected a number of indicators, which we call vital signs in the state plan. Some of them are called key milestones. And there's about 17 of them, I believe. Let me get ahead here. Oh. That's not supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the goals of the project. I want to emphasize this. The goal, as indicated by choosing 3 or so indicators for each of these broad areas, it was to track progress on the state plan, but really do it from a general high level, right? And so this is why we call them vital signs, the thinking being that these few indicators sort of represent the most important indicators as far as we could determine for this broad area. And we just wanted to be able to track, is the state plan, is it surviving? Is it thriving? Is it in trouble? Based on these broad indicators. So that is, there's not an indicator for every single activity. It's not meant to track activities. It's meant to track sort of the life of the state plan. And I also want to emphasize that the goal here is to assess progress. So we're trying to look back and say, so since 2020, how have we fared? Has the state plan had any impact so far? It is not meant to be prescriptive. So you will not find recommendations in this dashboard. You're not going to find what we should do, but you will find interpretations about how we've done so far. To reiterate what Alohi said, the audience has narrowed a bit since we originally conceived of it. So you are the intended audience, the Early Learning Board. And there were some interesting discussions with the subcommittee about if we were going to expand the audience to lawmakers or to the public or other stakeholders, then we should probably create another dashboard. So I just say that as an aside. So we're currently revising the dashboard based on these conversations that we've been having with the SI subcommittee for the past several months. And at the heart of what we're doing is adding a little bit of, adding more words, adding to the narrative, adding a little bit more explanation, but not a lot. We're really trying to stick with sort of bullet points to keep it brief. We don't want to write a long report here. So what you'll find are bullet points with some key information that helps you interpret the data and contextualize it. Also, as a result of that desire to be able to add explanation and narrative, we've had to reach out to experts. And so, as Alohi mentioned, C and I have been meeting with folks from the various agencies who are working around in the areas related to the data we're reporting on. And we've been learning some really interesting stuff. And we've been learning about how much we really don't know about the work that they're doing. So I think it's been wonderful to just start to establish some relationships with folks that we might be able to foster over time and really work with them to present data that can be useful in their areas. So looking to the future, just wanted to say that we are planning to bring the revised dashboard back to the SI subcommittee for their approval, at which time it can be shared with the full board. We're thinking of this dashboard as a learning process, and we are expecting that it could grow and it could change. And I realize that the early learning board membership is going to evolve over time, and we might find that the dashboard is a helpful tool for conveying information to new members of the board. We also realize there may be a new state plan emerging or new strategic plans. As our state priorities evolve, as our plans change, this dashboard could evolve along with them. Data availability also changes over time. And I think there's a lot of room for growth here in terms of adding breadth and depth to the dashboard. I think one of the things that I've learned from my conversations with board members working on this is that it's difficult to work with data and make decisions based on data. And we've learned a lot about how data doesn't speak for itself, that it involves a lot of interpretation. It involves a lot of scrutiny, and we have a lot of assumptions and blind spots that we need to consider. So we're learning, I think, together. And I think that conversation we've been having, looking at the data and figuring out, well, how do we make this more helpful for planning or for decision making? I think that's been a useful exercise. Yeah, I think my hope would be that this dashboard can continue to inspire and motivate conversations like that down the road. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. So if you have any questions as we're doing our revisions and meeting with our public partners, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jeff. We are not planning a full-on public rollout at this point, but we're happy to speak with anybody who may have questions or concerns, and just want to give the opportunity for folks to have that. But thank you for the time today.
Thanks, Alohi. Thanks, Jeff. And I just want to kind of reiterate what Jeff mentioned. The process, every meeting we have for SI committee when we're looking through this, we're having some really good conversations. And I think when the dashboard is done, I know our whole group is hoping those conversations actually happen here at ELB based off of the dashboard. So we're looking, I know SI committee members are looking forward to see kind of the, I guess, a near final draft of what Alohi and Jeff come up with. So thank you, Alohi and Jeff. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Ben. Do we have any time frame for when this might come back to the board? Or are we going to leave it as the goal is to get it here as soon as we can?
I take a stab. That's a tough one, Bob. We've got one of us is going on leave to give birth. I won't tell you which one of us. We're trying to set up meetings with folks, experts, as I said, and so we're a little bit dependent on their schedules. So I would love to be able to do this within the next 4 weeks, but I'm not confident that we could make that promise. So we're moving as fast as we can.
All right, thank you. I just didn't want to make an assumption that in August we would hear it without checking with the two of you to ensure that that's a possibility. So what we'll say is that in August, we hope we might hear it. And if not, it'll be later than that. Thank you both. Any comments or questions for Jeff or Alohi? I think we want to thank you both for the work that you've been doing, because you have been taking the feedback and seriously using it to try and get closer and closer to meaningful ways for us to see the data so that we can develop useful interpretations that will allow us to move forward. I've appreciated the conversation that we've had. Thank you. I think no additional subcommittee updates for this meeting, but I did want to give everyone an update about the status of the change in the board composition. And the status of SB 1022 HD1 CD1. Some of you probably know the governor signed a series of education bills, including the early learning bills, on July 3rd. And amongst those bills was SB 1022 HD1 CD1, which now has become Act 170. So in effect, if you look at the way this all works, all of our terms have officially expired. At the same time, in our investigations, we've discovered that until the governor appoints a new board, we would continue to operate as a de facto board in the meantime, with the decisions being made as valid decision-making on the part of the board. This past week, I have been able to have conversations with boards and commissions to get a better handle, now that the bill was made an act, about the process and the procedures and where things stand. And at the moment, the governor's office is in the process of looking for nominees to fill the positions for the new board. So the news is there is no news, but things are moving forward. When I asked, does that mean do we continue to function as we have been? The response was that would make the most sense at the moment. The governor, as most of you know, is out of town at the moment, also, so that this process may have been stalled a bit. I've asked to be kept informed so that I can share with you anything new that I discover. So we will function as the board continues, assuming there will be an August meeting, and until we hear further notice that this board will function in its de facto capacity. Now, that's the most clarity I can bring at the moment, but at least we know that things are being worked on, things are moving forward, so we should be able to get more information in the not too distant future. Anyone have any comments or questions? There's not much to add there, I'm sure, but any thoughts? I don't want to squelch if you had any.
This is Mari. I have
Yes.
a little question, because I was thinking about somebody to give the baton to. I recruited a younger doctor. I think we all met at one meeting, and she applied. Does she have to reapply now? The lower assigned, or is that still valid?
Yeah, I believe so. She would have to reapply.
She has to reapply. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
At least to express interest and indicate that she has applied. That would probably be the safest process, and to go to boards and commissions to do that, perhaps with a copy to the governor's office, since we know the governor's office is in the process of looking for qualified individuals or people who meet the qualification. All right, sorry for that extra responsibility, but I think that's the way it's probably going to be. I know that the governor's office has been receiving some suggestions, or at least I've heard that they've been receiving some suggestions. So I think the candidate you're speaking of should be urged to share her interest in the position. Anyone else have a question?
Quick question, Bob.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have mentioned this if this answer was known to you, but does the governor have a timeline for making these appointments, a general timeline?
I don't believe so at the moment. I am guessing that things have been so busy that they are just getting to it now that the bill has become an act and has been officially signed. I asked about a time frame and was told that they're working on it. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. If I get anything more concrete, I will certainly share it with all board members. I'm just glad we have been able to finally make contact with boards and commissions so that they are engaged in the conversation and aware of that we are seeking to have a little more confirmation about what the process is going to be and the time frame included. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm sorry.
Just one thing, Bob. So should potential applicants use the existing process? You know, there's the boards and commissions site, and they should just go ahead and use that same format for applying to the early learning board.
I think so. That would be the best way to do it. I don't know if they indicate their positions open yet. I haven't seen anything there. The last time I looked, it was not there. But I do think it would be wise. This is just me talking, not from anything I've heard, but somebody who is interested should go to boards and commissions. And I would alert the governor's office if they've expressed interest. I don't see any harm in doing that. And I don't know how actively the governor's office is seeking people to nominate or to apply directly. Okay, Justina, that's about all I know. Okay, if there are no other questions, let's move to item 7. At this point, another opportunity for public comment. Is there any member of the public who wishes to make a comment at this point? All right, hearing none. We'll move to the last item on the agenda, is to review the agenda outcomes and have our closing. The agenda outcomes that I have taken away from this particular meeting is Yuko is providing a link to offer the opportunity for comments on the rule changes being made in the federal grant process, if anyone is interested. With regard to the board transition, Matt mentioned that a Google Doc is being made available to house all the information from board subcommittees. He will be preparing a list of questions to be addressed by each of the subcommittees, and I will be the one sending that out. We got an update today on the status of the state plan data dashboard, knowing that we have a goal in sight to bring it back to the board for review once it is ready, but more data is being collected at this point. And finally, contact has been made with boards and commissions, and we know that the governor's office is in the process of seeking qualified nominees to fill the new board composition, but no time frame has been identified up to this point. So those are the items I have for outcomes for this particular meeting. Carrie expressed her apologies for not being able to be with us today, but she did provide us with a quotation. It's from Vince Lombardi. I have no idea if any of you are old enough to know who Vince Lombardi is. I know 2 of us in this room know who he is. He was a legendary football coach in the NFL, the Green Bay Packers in particular. And the quotation that Carrie's chosen to share with us is the following: individual commitment to a group effort. That is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, a civilization work. And Carrie says, please thank all of the board members for being such incredibly committed partners to the team. Seems like a good send-off for this particular meeting. Thank you all for your time today. And at least pencil in the August meeting on your calendar. I believe we will be meeting in August once again. Thank you, everyone. Aloha.